There are two, kind of defining events in my life that made me who I am and have given me kind of two different dimensions to what brought me into wanting to do sales of really expensive stuff. I think both of those experiences gave me self-confidence, but they also gave me drive and a little bit of not caring what people think of what I'm going to do to make it happen. The first one was that when I was in high school, I was not really a very big athlete. A friend of mine was doing the race walk, which is kind of a weird event. And I wasn't really very good at running. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll try doing the race walk. So I get into the race walk and I go to the first race and I go out and I'm like literally just like lapping people. I'm killing it in the third heat. So, I'm not really, I do it, I'm like, that was really cool. Like, I was really good at that. And the coaches are like, yeah, that was really cool. You're really good at that. Wow, okay. Next race, let's see what they put you in. So they put me in the first heat, the next race. First heat, second race, and I get to like third place. Totally fine. So I'm like, all right, well, I can be good at something. So I'm just gonna like do this, but I didn't know how to not do something like full out because I started seeing that I was like good at it. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just like do it. I'll just like work a little harder and see what happens. So the next thing you know, 6th at the States, 12th at the Nationals, moving up. Then I get into senior year of high school. So I get to States, I win States with a record as well. I do I'm like the top of all time, one of the top people of all time, like number 3 of all time. Really awesome, so excited, totally stoked. The next day is the national championships. So I go, and I'm one of these people where like, I'm not all about reading up about my competition. I don't do that. I'm just like, gotta go in, gotta go cold, gotta know me. And so I went in there and went out really, really well, and then just was like, boom, won the national championships next day. I was the top 6th of all time in the US for that, All-American athlete. It was just so inspiring because it was like, you can actually do anything that you wanna do. And especially if you have any sort of talent at something, and then you actually put the effort into it, you can like be anything you wanna be. That was a super defining moment for me and really, really inspiring and cool. And like, I still keep all my medals and like randomly I look at it and I'm like, breathe in the success, breathe in the championships. And then my second most defining moment was when I graduated from college, which was Wisconsin. All my friends moved to Chicago. I can move to Chicago with everybody else. And like, I'm sorry if you're from Chicago, I'm sure it's an amazing place, but I moved to Chicago and I was like, this is not for me. And I had this passion from living in Italy. I lived in Rome in college for like a semester. This is the time. I read a book and like had like a vision and was like, oh my God, I gotta go. I just gotta move to Italy. I just gotta leave. I gotta do it. Sold everything I had. I sold my car, I sold my bed, I sold all my furniture, I sold everything, put all my money away, bought a one-way ticket to Milan. And then I lived in Milan, Italy for 2 years. And while I was living in Milan, I worked doing a bunch of odd jobs for a while. Like at one point I worked in a bar, serving cappuccinos for lunch and making espressos. So it was this really cute restaurant where everybody would come for lunch. And in Italy, you basically go out to lunch every day. And everybody goes out to lunch at the same time. They all go to lunch at 1 o'clock and they all go to a couple of different restaurants, and most of the people come to the same place. At this restaurant, I started making friends with all these successful people. And my Italian was slowly getting better and all of that. And so from doing that for about 9 months, I got a job. I got a real job instead of just a bunch of odd jobs, because working in a cafe wasn't really my only job, but that was the only job that was actually entertaining to talk about. I got this job working for this company that was based outside of Milan. And I was traveling around with the president of the company, working my butt off and selling stuff and making like no money. I mean, this is like a European theme that you make not as much money in Europe and you're just still enjoying life, which is true. The truth was at some point, like, it just didn't make sense to me. I'm an American woman and I just was like, I'm meant to be making money doing what I'm doing. So after a couple of years, I just was like, this is it. So I moved back and I moved into my parents' house, kind of a little like broken and sad from not, having made it in Italy as like I don't know what I was gonna plan on really being, but I definitely hadn't made it. But it had been an amazing experience and I spoke fluent Italian. And so my stepfather actually was like, why don't you just sell real estate? I mean, it's a bigger ticket item. You know how to do sales, you like sales. Why don't you just do that? And I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll have some Italian clients, I'll be able to use my Italian. That is how it started. It wasn't like, I'm so passionate about it. real estate, obsessed with architecture and design and everything. It was not that. It was like, all right, sure, whatever. And that's kind of as simple as my brain is, kind of in some ways, where I was like, yeah, great, sure, I'll just try it. Let's see how it goes. In both cases, I did something that I actually didn't think I was capable of. Those were two huge things for me. I guess major milestones that were personally inspiring. And I still look at them to this day and feel like those were major things that I would always really wanted to do, and I accomplished them. It was actually kind of like a come down after having that race walking experience. You always kind of have a little come down off of that. And then that was like learning Italian was such a big thing for me that when I did learn it and then became really good at it, I was like, oh, I guess that was it. I guess I just speak Italian now.